Pakistan has to be one of the most beautiful countries that I have ever traveled to. But after traveling to the country last summer and talking to a lot of people around me, I noticed that a lot of people don't know what there is to see or to do in Pakistan, and they don't know what Pakistan has to offer tourists. So in this video, I want to tell you what the top 5 places are that you should visit if you're ever in Pakistan. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lauda and I've spent the past few years traveling all over the world. In this channel, I share lots of travel vlogs, hidden gems, and informational videos like this one, so make sure you subscribe if that's something you like, and let's get back into the video. So coming up in number 5, we've got Altit and Baltit Fort. So these are 2 castles or 2 forts located in Skardu Valley in the north of Pakistan. And while they're technically 2 places, they're very close to one another. They're 5 minutes away from each other. And both forts used to belong to the same royal family, the royal family of Hunza, or the Mirs of Hunza. And while Hunza is typically known for its incredible nature, places such as Rakaposhi Mountain, the Pasu Cones, Hosseini Suspension Bridge, Atbad Lake, I was most interested by history in Hunza, and the history of this valley is just so interesting. Its location close to China, close to Tibet, close to Afghanistan, and not too far away from India makes it incredibly interesting, and this place has so many cultural influences from other areas in the region. And the best places to learn about this history are Altit and Baltit Fort. They also have incredible views of the valley below, of the Hunza River, the Karakoram Highway, and they're very beautiful in their own right. They're super interesting, and they have an immense historical value. These castles are hundreds of years old. The area around Altit and Baltit Fort is also very nice and very pleasant, with a few tourist shops, a few gardens, a few vineyards, and it's a place that I highly recommend that you visit if you're ever in this area of Pakistan. Next on this list, coming up in 4th place, is Skardu Valley. So along with Hunza, I would say that Skardu is the other very famous valley in northern Pakistan, but in my opinion, it is more beautiful than Hunza. So of course this comes down to personal opinion, and Hunza is gorgeous as well. But Skardu is much more open. It has some incredible views of the mountains and of the Indus River, and it has some really unique features. First of which is this lake right here called Lower Kachura Lake or Shangri-La Lake. This lake went very Instagram famous a few years ago because if you look at it from above, it has the shape of a heart. But much more than that, it is just a very nice and pleasant place to be. The gardens around the lake are very green and have lots of flowers, and they're definitely worth it. There's also another lake called Upper Kachura Lake, which is close by, which I wouldn't say is as beautiful as Shangri-La Lake, but the area around Upper Kachura Lake is very beautiful, with these magnificent green fields and views of the mountains, and that makes it really worth it. Another really cool feature of Skardu is its cold deserts. So these are sandy deserts in the middle of super high mountains. Like some of these mountains are 6,000, 7,000 meters above sea level, and you can do lots of really cool activities here. They also have some fantastic views of the valley below, and the names of these deserts are Katpana Cold Desert and Safranga Cold Desert if you're interested in visiting any of these places. So yeah, I highly recommend that you visit Skardu if you're ever in Pakistan. But moving away from the north of the country, on the 3rd place in my list is the walled city of Lahore. So Lahore is one of the most populated cities in Pakistan. It's got 13 million inhabitants and it's close to the border with India, but it is also known as the culture capital of Pakistan. And a lot of this culture you can find in the walled city. The most famous building in the walled city is Badshahi Mosque, which is a Mughal-era mosque. So Lahore is a fabulous place to learn about the history of the Mughal Empire, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And like I was saying, Badshahi Mosque is a mosque from this time, from the Mughal Empire. It is also the 2nd largest mosque in Pakistan, and it is one of the largest mosques in the world, and it is an architectural masterpiece. However, my favorite building in the walled city is actually the Wazir Khan Mosque. So this is also a Mughal era mosque, and it is actually the most ornately decorated mosque from the Mughal era. I think it is absolutely beautiful. The detail in the art here and the architecture is just mesmerizing. And when I come here, I always think about how much time it must have taken architects and craftsmen to create something as beautiful as the Wazir Khan Mosque. So this place should be very high up in your bucket list if you're planning to go to the walled city. Another place that you can't miss in Lahore's walled city is the Lahore Fort. So this is a huge fort, also from the Mughal era. And it is so interesting to just walk around here, around the gardens, and particularly a place called the Shahi Killa, which has a very interesting history. And again, it has a lot of very detailed and ornate decorations and art. So this is a place that I highly recommend you go to. The walled city is also very well known for its very beautiful streets and the markets, which are very bustling and very interesting to walk around in. If you want to know more about Lahore, its walled city, its history, all of the buildings that you can see over there, I really recommend that you watch my vlog about Lahore. I actually have travel vlogs about all of the places that I'm mentioning in this list. I also have travel vlogs about Altit and Baltit Fort in Hunza and about Skardu Valley. So I will make sure I link all of the vlogs in the description down below. And I also have a playlist called Pakistan, where I have all of my videos from Pakistan and my time traveling in the country, and they have lots of useful information if you ever want to travel there yourself. So I will also link that in the description. So moving on, let's look at the place which sits at number 2 on this list, and that is Fairy Meadows. So Fairy Meadows is again in northern Pakistan, and unfortunately it is very difficult to access. So to get to Fairy Meadows, you have to get on a jeep and drive on the second most dangerous road in the world, which is not for the weak. And then you have to do a pretty difficult hike, although you can get around that by getting on a horse. But it is so worth it to go through all of that to get to Fairy Meadows because this place is so gorgeous. So as the name suggests, this is a green meadow in the middle of the mountains, and it has amazing views of Nanga Parbat, which is the 9th highest mountain in the world. It is over 8,000 meters high, and it is just a delight to see. You can also find this really cool lake in the meadow, which has a perfect reflection of the mountain. And this is a natural lake, by the way. This is not artificial, it is not Photoshop, and it makes it so beautiful. The vibes of the meadow are also so great. There are hotels and there are tourists, but this place has not lost its local charm and authenticity. So there's locals around here just grazing their cattle and riding their horses, playing polo and football, and just going about their daily life, which is so cool to see the tourists and the locals just in the same place all together. There's also a few hikes that start from Fairy Meadows, which are also very beautiful, and the one that I recommend that you do is one that goes to a place called Viewpoint 1. So in Viewpoint 1, you can get a closer look of Nanga Parbat and also of Raikot Glacier, which I find glaciers so fascinating. I love seeing them up close. This hike also passes through a place called Bayal Camp, which is also very, very beautiful, very green, and the views all throughout this hike are so scenic and so beautiful. It is also not very difficult to do, and you can also do it on horseback if you're struggling with the altitude or if you just don't want to hike. I spent 3 days riding in and around Fairy Meadows, and it was honestly one of my best experiences in Pakistan, so I highly recommend that you visit Fairy Meadows if you're in the country. It's one of those places that you just can't miss if you're traveling to Pakistan. And finally, let's talk about the number 1 place on this list. My favorite place that I visited in Pakistan, the one that I think is the most beautiful and that absolutely everyone should visit if they're ever in the country, and that is Deosai National Park. Deosai is also known as the Land of the Giants, and for good reason, because this place is immense and so beautiful. It has an expanse to it, a feeling of endlessness and infinity, which is very, very difficult to find in other places. The Deosai Plains are the second highest plains in the world, only after the Tibetan Plateau, and they're above 4,000 meters high. And this actually makes the mountains in the distance look super, super tiny, even though they're all above 5,000 meters high, which is crazy to me. There's also something about this high altitude environment that is just so mesmerizing. The nature is so raw and so pristine here. The air is so clean, the water is so clear. It's also a good place to find wildlife. Deosai was actually made to protect the Himalayan brown bear, but you can also find Himalayan wolves. Marmots are pretty common, and there's so many wildflowers here which are so beautiful with the contrast of the snowy peaks in the distance. Much like Fairy Meadows, Deosai isn't an easy place to access. The park is closed most of the year because of bad weather, and it is completely inaccessible in the winter because of the snow. But even in summer, because the landscape is so rugged and the roads aren't very good quality, you still have to come here with a jeep. But again, it is just so worth it to travel to a place as remote as this and as beautiful as this. And it is the place that, if you're traveling to Pakistan, it is the one place that I think you cannot miss visiting. So that is it for my list. These are the top 5 places that I think you should visit if you're traveling to Pakistan. They're the places that I enjoyed the most during my trip to the country. And of course, this comes down to personal opinion. And Pakistan is a huge country. I have not visited all of it. There's still some places that I wasn't able to go to on my trip there. So let me know in the comments if you agree with my list, if you disagree with it. Let me know if you think there are places which are even more beautiful than Deosai National Park, even though I find that very hard to imagine. And let me know if you think there are any places that I missed that I should have included. So if you like this video, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.